Danny, this project took a long time to develop in terms of other people looked at it, and then you came on board. What was it about it that made you want to get involved?
Just the most startling experience reading the script. I mean, it's just like I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was all dialogue. I mean, literally, it started interior day, and then it just went, that was it, continuous. But, I mean, normal scripts are like 120 pages. It's like 200 pages of dialogue. And it was just like, and yet you read it like that. And obviously that was a clue about how to do it. It had enormous pace, that the speed of thought of this man and the people around him was extraordinary. And it was partly their brilliance, but partly, you know, they're very bright people, but also their drive, his drive, you know, pushing, trying to push at the future, to get at the future, to kind of build the future. It was really compelling. I mean, he's not a perfect guy by any means. So it's a complex portrait as well. And so there's no like easy hits where you kind of like, oh, that's cute or anything like that. It's like a ride that you get on and you emerge at the end of it and you feel like you've been in the presence of a planet with gravitational pull, and these other characters are trapped almost in a way, rotating around him, really, as he pulses forward. So it was an extraordinary experience. And it's about a true guy as well, you know, a guy who actually lived as well, you know. So, you know, who we all know. So, or think we know. So it was, you know, it was all that stuff. It was an amazing experience.
As you start thinking about it from a directing standpoint, you're reading through the screenplay and you're starting to get ideas. How do you make just dialogue, walking and talking, which is Aaron Sorkin's trademark? How do you make that compelling on screen?
Great actors. I mean, it's the most obvious way, isn't it? You've got to cast it brilliantly. You've got to have great actors. And then you've got to create the conditions for them so that and we had rehearsal time, so that they could try it in different ways, and we experiment with different ways. And then that is what allows you to then begin to think about camera and actually how you might film it. So you let the cart lead the horse, you know. You let the horse lead the cart is what I meant, sorry. And the horses, it's terrible to refer to actors as horses, but that's them really, and we're in the cart trying to keep up. So it was just creating the conditions for them to be able to do it. And then it's because if it's peculiar that it's a thing that happens 3 times, you're trying to create as much difference as possible in each part. And that's every decision that we made, the theatre that it was set in, the kind of the film stock that we used, the music, what they wore, what they looked like, everything was different, you know, each time. So that you're emphasising. So it's almost like watching 3 films in one in a way.
I want to get to Michael in a second, but we've never seen Kate Winslet like this before, I don't think, in any movie. What made you think of her for this role?
Well, she sent this picture. She heard we were doing it, and she loves the idea of Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs. And so she sent this picture of herself, which she didn't say who she was. This picture arrived, like, you know, the way they do on these devices we all have now, thanks to him, of her kind of like in a kind of red wig. And it didn't look at, I mean, nobody knew it was Kate Winslet at first. In fact, I think some people thought it was Kate Blanchett, I think. And it was her sort of saying, I can do Joanna Hoffman. It was her way of saying, don't think of me as that blonde girl anymore, you know. And she's an extraordinary actress. So I went to meet her in Melbourne, of all places. I flew to Melbourne to meet her because she was filming there. She drove in like 4 hours from wherever they were. I arrived at breakfast time. We had a breakfast meeting. She went back to set, and we agreed to do it and cast her. And she's an extraordinary woman because I think what she does, she's very vivacious around the set. You know, if she was here, she'd be kind of like saucy, making sure everybody's all right. It's very harmonious and kind of healing. But also she uses that, which is part of her natural tendency. Joanna Hoffman is clearly that character. She was the enabler. She made Steve's world work, you know. And she would only occasionally challenge him. And she was the equal of him intellectually. But she'd only occasionally challenge him. That's very like Kate. She makes everybody's world work, but when she turns it on, she's as good as Fassbender, you know. And so the scenes together between the two of them are fantastic. And of course, Sorkin writes, she has a wonderful scene where she says, it's not just you to blame. I've let you do this. I'm complicit in how you have behaved towards this, your child, you know, which is heartbreaking, really. So it's wonderful role for her. So I'm glad she sent us that picture of her in the red wig.
Jeff Daniels, coming off The Newsroom with Aaron Sorkin, has a great role here. Why is he so good with that dialogue, and was he able to help the others kind of figure things out?
Yeah, he was I think because filming it, everybody's like, are we ever going to be able to do this? and Jeff would walk in and say, oh yeah, you do it. But it was, I think by the time Jeff arrived, some of them had begun the process of work, and I think he could tell straight away that they were doing it the right way. You need to put a lot of work in before you start. If you want that freedom of it feeling spontaneous and feeling elegant and feeling like it's yours, that it's not some writer's, it belongs to you, you've got to put the work in beforehand. Because there's got to be no uncertainty. If you stammer at all or slip, it collapses. It's a kind of inflated rhythm that's extraordinary, and it feels like human speech, except if you look at it, it's way faster than we speak. It's way more brilliant, way more eloquent than we could ever be, But if you put the work in, you can achieve that. Because when you get opposite another great actor, you can start bouncing it off each other, and this rhythm starts between them. And that's the way we did it. We'd let them do long takes of it, and then I'd do many, many different angles on that, so we had that variation. But they were allowed to actually build the rhythm with each other live in the takes. And then you do this with an amazing editor called Elliot Graham. And we do this, because when I talk to you like this, I'm talking very fast, but every so often I breathe like that. Well, in editing, you take out that breath. You just slip it out like that and move it aside. And it's only like a third of a second and it's gone. And it makes the film feel breathless. You're watching it and you're sort of like, and it's because they're not breathing. And yet it doesn't feel unreal. It's just this accelerated speed of thoughts, really, that they have. And what I loved about it was that that's Aaron's way of portraying them. He doesn't show them doing algorithms on Windows or opening up machinery, or he doesn't do it by everybody saying, oh, you're brilliant, you really are. He does it by the speed of thought, through language and through the cadence and rhythm of his dialogue.
Michael doesn't necessarily look like Steve Jobs, especially in real life. So how did that connection come that you knew that he was the right guy?
I remember he's a wonderful actor. I've tried to work with him a couple of times before and it's never worked out. He's a wonderful actor, but that they have, you know your favourite actors, and you kind of like, and you know their capabilities and things like that. But then I began to think about the work that he does, and if you look at his choices of work, he's very uncompromising in the way that he goes about his work. He makes quite difficult choices, and he pursues them relentlessly. And I remember thinking, that's very Jobsian. He's just like, he really is his own man, and he pursues it. And he's not chasing easy credibility or easy laughs or anything like that. He has this vision, and it's kind of quite, not manic, but it's intense. And that's all, everybody who'd met Jobs, none of us had met Jobs, but everybody who had met him said, make sure you get that intensity of that focus. Because that's the thing, whether you liked him or disliked him, and there were many, many people from both sides, the thing they all agreed on is when the focus was there, you could feel it palpable and, blazing into you. And Michael's got that as well. So he felt like a great choice for it. A courageous choice, but again, you're doing it, this guy, his mantra was think different. And so you wanted to apply that at all times. So you cast Kate Winslet, even though she's not obvious casting. You cast Michael, even though initially he doesn't look anything like him. But there's a greater goal there that will try, if we do it well enough, and capture an essence of the man,
He just died a few years ago, so there's a lot of people around that knew him. What have you heard back from some of those people?
Well, the big one for us was Steve Wozniak, the real Steve Wozniak. He helped us. He came in to speak to the actors, but he is his own man, Steve Wozniak. And although he was attached to the production in a way, in an informal way, when the trailer came out, he said he didn't like it. It was like, oh, God. But then when he saw the film, he said he loved it. And it was wonderful because you realise, because you can't buy Steve Wozniak's opinion. He is his own man. And he was genuinely very complimentary about it. So that meant a great deal, really, because I think, in a way, the heart of the film, the emotional heart of the film, in a way, does lie with him, especially in Seth's performance, because Seth and him got on very well. They hung out together. They went doing magic tricks at the Magic Castle. There were all sorts of things going on. But there was something about the bond between them, because there's something about that idea in the film. It's like a golden thread that runs through the film, that you can be, Woz insists, that you can be decent and gifted at the same time. It isn't just torture, and it isn't just about being difficult, it's about being different. And they're slightly different things, and I think that's an idea that runs through the film. And in a way, he's the heart of the film. And so to have him talk about his friend, who they created this together in a garage, or a garage, as you guys say, to have him speak about it like that, having seen the film, was wonderful, actually. And he came out on stage with us a number of times. He did a number of presentations of the film. So we're very proud of that moment,
Something I've wanted to ask you for a couple of years, if I ever got to meet you, was heavily involved in the London Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering, and a great job on that.
Thank you.
I know it was a ton of work. How has that changed you as a director moving forward?
Whoa. It made me appreciate kind of, what I learned, what I took into it was, and I refused to abandon, and it was the reason that I think it was good, is that kind of I work in teams. And I've done this, that's how I make the films. It's teamwork, and it's a really close-knit bunch of people who make it. There's many, many different layers of people who join for different lengths of time, but the core group of people who make it, they're a team, and I treat them as equals. And they're absolutely, in the end, I have to make decisions sometimes, but I see them as being, I see myself as being first amongst equals, if you like. And I applied that to the Olympics as well. We took in a core group of people, and I refused to let anybody break it up. And so it came out of a very personal place, our place, really. And that's and those stories are always best told in a personal way, if you can. No matter how big they are, and there's 1 billion people watching, or whatever it is, that doesn't mean anything. What it means is, did you like it? Did it speak to you in some way? And that you want it to be from this person to that person, and make it as personal as possible. So I kind of, and it's made, so it proved to me, actually, that way of working is the way to work in all circumstances. And just because something's huge, it doesn't make any difference, actually. The core of it should still be the same. It should have integrity and passion, and belief in the core of it, And that's something that Jobs would believe as well, actually, in the way that he would build, because for all his reputation as how difficult he could be and stuff like that, the core group, the A-listers as he called them, he was very, very supportive of them. They were he knew how important they were. Because like it says in the film, he doesn't have any particular skills. He's not really an engineer or a designer or a coder. He doesn't know any of that, really. He synthesizes all those people who can do those things and gives them, and is the catalyst for them moving towards something together.
You're an Oscar winner, Slumdog Millionaire, and I agree with you when you said that night that was a great ceremony. That may be my favorite ceremony.
Good. Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah.
You've been voting since then, and I always love to ask, anytime I've got an Oscar member or Academy member, obviously I think I know who you're marking in first this year on directing, but when you've got that directing ballot on a given year, you don't have to give specifics, but just what are you looking for in somebody else's directing that makes you want to mark their name?
I think you would like to say it doesn't really matter, you're kind of just looking at the quality of the film, but I think as a director, you're looking at not just the quality of the film, but there's something, you sense the story behind it of how it was made, and the struggle or whatever it has that person's gone through to actually get it there to you. And you kind of, heart goes towards that. That's all I can tell you. You kind of, so it may not be the most successful or the most popular, but you sense something in it. It's got to be good, obviously, because there's no good voting for directors who, and the final film isn't any good, because there's lots of people who have a tremendous struggle and the ultimate film is perhaps not that great, but you admire the struggle. You admire them when they create a really, really good film, and you can sense some of the narrative that's gone into it for a director, because you just know how it works, and the stresses and strains of it all like that.
So you can kind of see their personality imprint itself onto the film.
Yeah, and again, you're also looking for that thing that Jobs said, think different. You're looking for the different in it rather than the same. You're looking for someone who says, no, I want to tell it like this, because we have an extraordinary privilege in making films for big screens. And I think part of the responsibility of that privilege is that you use it in a way that is unique for people. People give you $15 or $18 or whatever they're giving you, and you're trying to give them something that they can't just see at home every night. You want to give them something special to make it a unique occasion that they're coming out. They give you this money and they entrust you with to work hard and present them with something that shifts things a bit, that's a little bit different.
Over your life of watching movies, what are a couple of directing achievements that you just really impressed you?
Well, Beasts of the Southern Wild. There's a little one. Mm-hmm. Everything from because that's just an extraordinary film. So that's one that's just plucked out of the air. Apocalypse Now, my favourite film of all time.
Okay.
And that's on an enormous scale. But they both have very unique visions. So they'd be two, like for instance, that I would pick. I remember seeing. So I did a DGA Q&A last night, and it was moderated by Catherine Bigelow, and I'd have to mention her as well, because I remember seeing, when I saw Near Dark, I didn't know anything about it because I think it was her second film. I didn't know anything about her. I remember thinking, shit, that is a really wonderful piece of directing. And then I got to meet her. I got to meet her actually at Toronto, and she was there with Hurt Locker, and I was there with Slumdog, and Slumdog was doing really well, and Hurt Locker wasn't picked up for distribution by anyone. She had to wait a whole year for that because it came, and she won the Academy Award that year. Back. Yeah, I mean, it was just like incredible, and I was so pleased for her, and she's somebody who I admire enormously. Yeah.
Thanks so much. As I told you, I love the film, and good luck with everything going forward.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.